The night I came home from surgery was the night I finally understood that sometimes the person standing beside you is the loneliest person in your life. It was a cold November evening. Rain covered the windows of the hospital as I slowly walked toward the entrance, one hand pressed against my aching side and the other holding the small bag of medicine the nurse had given me. I had just undergone surgery. I was weak, exhausted, and scared. But I kept telling myself one thing. My husband is waiting for me at home. His name was Daniel. We had been married for 11 years. For most of those years, I believed Daniel was my safe place. So when I reached for my phone outside the hospital, I called him. He answered after several rings. "Daniel," I whispered, "the doctor discharged me. Can you come pick me up?" There was a long silence. Then he sighed. "I can't." Froze. "What do you mean?" "I have something important to do." "Daniel, I just had surgery." "I know." His voice was cold. "I'll see you later." Then he hung up. I stood there in the rain, staring at my phone. I waited 20 minutes. Then 40. Finally I called a taxi. That night I came home alone. I could barely walk from the front door to the bedroom. But Daniel wasn't there. His car was gone. His phone was off. I assumed he had gone somewhere and would return soon. I was wrong. He never came back. The next morning I called him again. Nothing. I sent messages. Nothing. By the second day I was frightened. By the third day I was angry. By the fourth day I stopped calling. And by the fifth day something inside me changed. I stopped waiting for my husband. Instead I started looking at my life without him. That was when I noticed things I had ignored for years. The expensive dinners he suddenly had without me. The late-night phone calls. The passwords he had changed. The strange excuses. And most importantly, the fact that whenever I needed him, he somehow became unavailable. I spent the next few days recovering quietly. Our housekeeper, Mrs. Wilson, was the only person who checked on me. She brought me soup. She helped me walk. She reminded me to take my medicine. On the 8th day I finally decided I was done. Packed a small suitcase. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen table. And I walked out. I didn't leave a note. I didn't call Daniel. I simply disappeared from the life of the man who had already disappeared from mine. That same evening Daniel finally came home. He walked through the front door like nothing had happened. He called my name. "Emma." No answer. He walked into the kitchen. Then he saw Mrs. Wilson. "Where is my wife?" Mrs. Wilson looked at him quietly. "She left." Daniel laughed nervously. "What do you mean she left?" "She left 8 days after you abandoned her at the hospital." His smile disappeared. "What did you say?" Mrs. Wilson stepped closer. "She came home from surgery alone. You didn't call. You didn't visit. You didn't even ask if she was alive." Daniel's face turned pale. "Where did she go?" Mrs. Wilson looked directly into his eyes. "Somewhere you can't follow her." Daniel started calling me immediately. My phone rang again and again. I watched it from across the room. But I didn't answer. For the first time in 11 years, I wasn't afraid of his anger. I wasn't desperate for his approval. I wasn't waiting for him to choose me. He had already made his choice. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel called Mrs. Wilson again. His voice was shaking. "Please," he said, "tell me where she is." Mrs. Wilson was silent for several seconds. Then she said something that destroyed him. "She isn't missing, Daniel. She simply stopped making herself available to someone who never made himself available to her." Daniel sat down. He covered his face with both hands. But the truth was, his pain had nothing to do with losing me. It had everything to do with finally realizing that I had learned how to live without him. The next morning, Daniel received an envelope. Inside was my wedding ring. And one letter. It contained only a few lines. "Daniel, you left me alone when I was at my weakest. You thought I would always wait for you. You were wrong. I spent 11 years trying to save our marriage. Now I'm saving myself. Don't look for the woman who begged you to love her. She no longer exists. Emma." Daniel read the letter 3 times. Then he broke down. But I never saw him cry. Because by then I was somewhere far away, sitting beside a quiet lake, watching the November rain fall over the water. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's wife. I wasn't someone's responsibility. I wasn't waiting for a phone call. I was simply Emma. And I finally understood something. Sometimes losing someone isn't the tragedy. Sometimes the tragedy is spending years believing you need someone who never needed you. Daniel thought leaving me alone would make me realize how much I needed him. Instead, those 8 days taught me the opposite. They taught me that I could survive without him. And once I discovered that, I never wanted him back. Because the greatest revenge wasn't hurting Daniel. It was becoming completely happy without him. And that was something he could never take away from me.